You've already met them. The person who breaks your heart. Statistically, you've probably already shaken their hand, sat next to them on a train, or scrolled past their photo without a second thought. That sentence should feel impossible. It doesn't feel impossible because it's rare. It feels impossible because your brain refuses to flag the moment while it's happening. Here's the strange part. Falling in love isn't as mysterious as it feels from the inside. In 1997, the psychologist Arthur Aron brought two strangers into a lab and had them ask each other 36 increasingly personal questions, then stare into each other's eyes for 4 minutes in silence. No history, no chemistry built over months, just structured vulnerability on a timer. Some of those strangers left the lab in love. One pair got married a year later. Aron wasn't trying to break anyone's heart. He was trying to prove something uncomfortable. Closeness isn't fate. It's a process. And processes can be started by accident, with almost anyone, under the right conditions. So if love can be manufactured in a lab with total strangers, what does that say about the person you actually did fall for? It says you probably weren't chosen by some cosmic matching system. You were nearby, at the right moment, when the conditions lined up. The psychologist Robert Zajonc called this the mere exposure effect. The more you see someone, the more your brain quietly decides to like them, with no other information required. It's why office romances happen at absurd rates. It's why people fall for the friend they never noticed until sophomore year. Proximity isn't a backdrop to love. It's one of the main ingredients. There's another wrinkle to timing that makes this messier. The psychologist Dorothy Tennov coined the term limerence in 1979 to describe the obsessive, involuntary infatuation stage of early romantic attraction. Racing thoughts, intrusive daydreams, the specific high of a text finally arriving. Tennov found this state rarely lasts more than 18 months to 3 years before it either cools into a deeper bond or collapses completely, which means some of your heartbreaks were never really about losing the right person. They were about limerence ending on schedule, the way it almost always does, and mistaking that ending for proof it was never real, which means somewhere in your ordinary week right now, there's a real chance you keep crossing paths with someone your brain hasn't flagged yet. Not because they're hidden, because the conditions haven't lined up. Now here's the part that actually hurts. The average person falls in love an estimated 3 to 7 times in their life before settling into a long-term partnership, according to relationship researchers who study serial monogamy patterns across the population. That means most of the people you've loved or will love were never going to be the last one. Most love is practice. It just doesn't feel like practice while you're inside it. The anthropologist Helen Fisher spent decades scanning the brains of people newly in love. She found that romantic attraction lights up the same neural reward pathways as cocaine, not similar, the same. Which means heartbreak isn't just sadness, it's closer to withdrawal. Your brain built a dependency on a person the way it builds one on a substance, and then that supply disappeared, leaving the same craving behind that any withdrawal does. That's why the ending hurts more than logic says it should. You're not just losing a person, you're going through detox. But here's what almost never gets said out loud. You needed the ones who broke your heart. Not because pain is noble, because comfort teaches you nothing about your own limits, and heartbreak is one of the only forces honest enough to show you where they are. Every person who left taught your nervous system something about what you'll tolerate, what you actually need, and what you quietly assumed you wanted but didn't. That's not a consolation prize. That's the actual mechanism by which people become capable of a relationship that lasts. So somewhere out there, right now, is a person who will eventually break your heart. Or maybe you've already met them, and it already happened, and you survived it. Either way, the math was never really about avoiding it. The people who find something lasting aren't the ones who dodge heartbreak. They're the ones who kept showing up to the next room, the next conversation, the next 36 questions after the last one ended. You've already met the person who will break your heart. You just don't know which meeting it was. And maybe that's the only way any of this was ever going to work.